हेलो फ्रेंड्स, आज हम पढ़ने जा रहे हैं कंटेम्पोरेरी वर्ल्ड पॉलिटिक्स का चैप्टर 3 यूएस हेजेमनी इन वर्ल्ड पॉलिटिक्स. सो लेट्स स्टार्ट. US hegemony began in 1991 after Soviet power disappeared from international scene. In 1990, Iraq invaded Kuwait. US President George H.W. Bush held emergence of New World Order. Massive coalition force of 660,000 troops from 34 countries fought against Iraq and defeated it in the First Gulf War. UN Operation Desert Storm took place. Norman Schwarzkopf led UN coalition and nearly 75% of coalition forces were from US. Saddam Hussein promised mother of all battles. Iraqi forces were quickly defeated. Despite winning first Gulf War, George W. Bush lost the previous presidential election of 1992 to William Jefferson. William Jefferson or Bill Clinton of Democratic Party won again in 1996 and remained US president for 8 years. In 1999, in response to Yugoslavian action against the predominantly Albanian population in province of Kosovo, air forces of the NATO countries led by US bombarded targets around Yugoslavia for over 2 months. Al-Qaeda, a terrorist organization influenced by extremist Islamist idea, bombed the US embassies in Nairobi, Kenya, and Dar es Salaam, Tanzania in 1989. Within few days of this bombing, President Clinton ordered Operation Infinite Reach, a series of cruise missile strikes on Al-Qaeda terrorist targets in southern and Afghanistan. On 11 September 2001, 19 hijackers hailing from number of Arab countries took control of 4 American commercial aircraft and flew them into important buildings of US. Aircraft crashed in North and South Towers of World Trade Center in New York, Pentagon buildings in Arlington, Virginia, and fourth aircraft bound for Capitol building of US Congress came down in a field in Pennsylvania. The attacks came to be known as 9/11. The attacks killed nearly 3,000 persons. US response to 9/11 was swift and ferocious. George W. Bush had a much harder view of US interest. As part of its global war on terror, the US launched Operation Enduring Freedom against all those suspected to be behind this attack, mainly Al-Qaeda and Taliban regime in Afghanistan. US forces made arrests all over the world, arrested persons detained in secret prison. Some of them were brought to Guantanamo Bay in Cuba. On 19 March 2003, US launched invasion of Iraq under code name Operation Iraqi Freedom. 14 countries joined. Purpose of invasion was to prevent Iraq from developing weapons on mass destruction. No evidence of WMD has been found in Iraq. Government of Saddam Hussein failed swiftly. A full-fledged insurgency against US occupation was ignited in Iraq. US has lot over 3,000 military personnel in war. 50,000 Iraqi civilians had been killed since US-led invasion. US hegemony as a hard power. Hegemony roots lie in classical Greek word, implies leadership of one state. Meaning of hegemony relates to relation patterns and balances of military capabilities between states. Imperial power have used military forces to accomplish, to conquer, to deter and punish and police. American capacity to conquer is formidable. Similarly, US capability to deter and to punish is self-evident. As a structural power, hegemony, an open world economy requires a hegemon or dominant power to support its creation and existence. Hegemony is reflected in a role played by US in providing global public goods. Sea lanes of communication. Internet is direct outcome of US military research project began in 1915. US share of world economy remains 28%, also accounts for 15% of world trade. Economic preponderance of US is inseparable from its structural power. Bretton Woods system set up by US after Second World War constitute basic structure of world economy. Thus, we can regard World Bank, International Monetary Fund, and World Trade Organization as product of American hegemony. Example of structural power of US is the academic degree called Masters in Business Administration. First business school in world, Wharton School at University of Pennsylvania, established in 1881. First MBA course initiated around 1990. First MBA course outside US was established in 1950. US has a soft power, hegemony, capacity to manufacture consent, means class ascendancy in social, political, and particularly ideological spheres. Arise where dominant class of core country can win consent of dominated class by persuading the dominated class to view world in a manner favorable to the ascendancy of dominant class. Suggests that dominant power deploys not only military power but also ideological resources. America is most seductive and in this sense the most powerful culture on earth. This attribute is called the soft power, ability to persuade rather than coerce. In Soviet Union, blue jeans were the ultimate symbol of liberation. For an entire Soviet generation, blue jeans came to represent aspirations of a good life. Constraint on American power. First constraint, institutional architecture of American state, division of power between three branches of government. Second constraint on American power, domestic in nature and stems from the open nature of American society. Third constraint on US is only one organization in international system, moderate exercise of American power into NATO, that is NATO. In Indo-US relation, two new factors emerge, relate to the technological dimension and role of Indian-American diaspora. US absorbs 65% of India's total export in software sector. 35% of technical staff of Boeing is estimated to be of Indian origin. 3 lakh Indian works in Silicon Valley. 50% of all high-tech startups are by Indian Americans. There is no world government like government of a country. The international politics is politics without government. There are some rules or laws called laws of war that restrict but don't prohibit. Instead of engaging in activities opposed to hegemonic power, it may be advisable to extract benefits by operating within hegemonic system. This is called the bandwagon strategy. Thank you. Please like, share and subscribe the channel.